Okay, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This morning, I'm really pleased to have with me as my guest Eva Yin, who's a partner at Wilson Sonsini. Eva, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Well, Eva, I'm super excited to talk to you. I don't often get to talk to a Yale PhD. So let me start by asking you maybe why you chose, I guess, chemistry and biology as your undergraduate major. Looks like you've even got a minor in math. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think science has always sort of been my first passion. I really enjoy learning how something works, and also it's just fascinating in the biological systems. And there's still so much that we don't know. So that's definitely my first passion. And I at the time, as an undergrad, I knew I wanted to go into research as a scientist. So I thought getting, majors in chemistry and biology would be great. There was a lot of overlapping courses, so it wasn't as bad. And then I thought that provide a good foundation for me to going into a PhD at graduate
Yeah.
school.
Well, what was your PhD research on, or what was your PhD program and thesis on?
Yeah, so my PhD is in molecular biophysics and biochemistry, or MB&B, at Yale University.
Okay.
And for my thesis, I analyzed a part of the RAG recombinase. Basically, it's a recombinase protein DNA complex that basically generates the diverse repertoire of receptors for
Huh.
T cells and B cells. I was really interested in that, learning more about that mechanism because it's fascinating in that we have so many diverse receptors.
Huh.
But in order to pack that into, the genome, it needs to undergo recombination, which is basically taking different pieces of DNA and then
Huh.
recombining them into a receptor, and that gives us, these, myriads, thousands, or millions of combinations and diversity
Huh.
in the receptors. So I was interested in learning about that mechanism, and that's was at the lab of David Schatz in the immunology department.
Huh.
But at that time, I was interested in learning, understanding the structure of that complex, because I think, seeing is believing, and having a structural image allows you to design, biochemical experiments.
Hmm.
So for the biochemistry part, I worked, or collaborated with senior scientist postdocs at the Tom Stites lab in MBNB department. I took a reductionist approach. So try to go for a bigger complex, but that was we couldn't get any crystals for a crystal
Hmm.
structure. So we ended up crystallizing a smaller piece of the active domain of the protein DNA
Hmm.
complex, and we were able to solve the structure. And then with that, I was able to design different mutants in the protein, and then to test the hypothesis of how the protein recognized the DNA sequence, and and it was able to carry out this recombination mechanism.
Hmm.
So
Does
since
that
I've
mech
graduated, oh, I was just going to add that since I graduated, other lab has, solved the bigger complex. So it's really gratifying to see
Hmm.
the consistency between the smaller domain that we solved during my PhD, and also how that fits into the bigger complex. So.
Is that what application or how is that important? That understanding that mechanism is that important for certain diseases or certain therapies or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think understanding how the protein recognized and interacted with the DNA, it certainly allowed us to see where, mutations associated with the diseases,
Hmm.
mapped onto the protein structure. That, like, that type of interaction understanding can certainly catalyze, drug development, targeting, or figuring out ways to repair those deficiencies.
Yeah.
And also we understood, had a better understanding of why different mutations in different regions of the protein can, lead to different results
Hmm.
in terms of immune
Hmm.
deficiency.
So after you get this impressive PhD and sounds like incredibly arduous research, what did you decide to do then?
Oh, yeah, good question. I was a little bit disillusioned, because I felt I was, became more interested in applying, what I learned in the research lab. How does that translate into solutions that can benefit patients. Going to the question that you asked just now, and I realized that working in basic research in an ivory tower, it is several steps removed from that. And I
Hmm.
wanted to learn how I can translate that research into real world solutions. So
Hmm.
that's when I looked around to explore different career options. Certainly consider medical school.
Hmm.
But then I talked to some of friends who were practicing physicians and for those going through medical school. I felt like it wasn't quite the right fit.
Hmm.
But I was very much interested in health policy, and also intersection between policy, law, and science.
Hmm.
And I think the more I learned about public health, I learned that one of the frustrating things about the healthcare systems that we can develop the latest, therapeutics or technology, but not all patients can access that. And it's a much more complex issue.
Hmm.
And so I thought, getting a degree in public health, and then, followed by a law degree that would open more doors for me in terms of how
Wow.
I can.
You must really enjoy at school. So you went straight through from you got an MPH and then law all right contiguous, or did you even take a break along the way?
It was pretty much continuous. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
I thought I would just, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right? Get it all over, out of the way. And then, yeah.
well,
So, but I enjoyed it.
did you decide the law school thing while you were doing your MPH, or even before you started the MPH, you knew that you wanted to do that and law? And if that's the case, why not just do the law and skip the masters? I mean, I'm sure you could have done what you're doing with just the PhD.
Yeah, great question. I think having worked many years in hard science in a research lab, I felt, the literary side, or the having an understanding of like government, administrative law and policy, I felt like that was lacking.
Huh.
And I thought that MPH provided that bridge. It's almost like a sabbatical in a way, for me to go from hard science to law school.
Oh
I
my
did.
God.
Feel that getting a law degree was important in terms of opening more doors, and the MPH program was just 1 year.
Wow.
So
Did you feel burned out from school when you were nearing the end of law school or at any point along the line? I mean, that's a lot of schooling.
it is, and also student loans. um, my parents have a different view about that, I'm sure. But no, I didn't feel burnt out. And to be quite honest, coming out of research and just the working at the bench, it was actually such a great change of pace. And I really enjoyed the MPH program at Johns Hopkins. There I met scientists, doctors, public health professionals,
Mm,
some already worked in the government from all over the world.
mm,
I just, I think that was an opportunity for me to sit there and just absorb all the content, and just be a sponge. And I really enjoyed that. I think that really helped me to better understand the complexity in
yeah,
healthcare system
yeah,
and
yeah,
what it takes to, for companies to develop, from drug discovery, to getting a product to the market.
yeah, yeah.
And also understanding the diverse stakeholders in healthcare, hospital systems, public health professionals, government, industry, and you have the startup community and big med tech and big pharma. They all have different interests. So I
Yeah.
think having that understanding was important,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think for my career.
Oh, interesting. So with this Yale PhD, your master's in public health, a law degree, tell me how you weaved all that together into your current practice. What does that current practice look like, and how do you use all these different pieces?
Yeah, I think I use different pieces in that I still most of my clients today are startups or clinical stage companies in the
Uh-huh.
life science space, everything from devices, digital health, digital therapeutics, and diagnostics. And I think having that scientific background, but more importantly, understanding I think the process for research, and also the scientific method,
Uh-huh.
and I think and also critical thinking. That really, allows me to communicate effectively with clients. And many of the clients that I interact with are, PhDs or MDs,
Oh, sure.
founders.
Yeah, yeah.
So that has been great. But also to understanding, obviously, the regulatory process and also the broader picture of, healthcare. I think that allows me to
Hmm.
advise them, provide a more comprehensive
Hmm. So
counseling.
what is the actual legal practice you're actually advising? What is kind of your area of legal expertise that you advise these clients on?
Oh, okay. I advise them on FDA and healthcare regulation.
Ah,
So
okay.
obviously for, medical products, they need to go through the FDA review and approval process before
Right.
they can commercialize their product. And then as companies approach commercialization, I work with them on setting up healthcare compliance programs,
Mm.
and also like anti-kickback statute and sunshine reporting obligations that apply to manufacturers.
No, that totally makes sense.
Um,
Now, did
yeah.
you think about doing patent work? Because obviously you could have done that. Did you dabble in that a little bit? A
I
lot of
did.
PhDs. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I
And
did dabble that a little bit, and fortunately, that was actually one of the main reasons I decided to lateral to Wilson Sonsini. They have one of the biggest, if not the largest, life science
for sure.
patent group in the country. So when I joined Wilson, I did sit in the patent group in San
Uh-huh.
Diego office, dabbled a little bit. I appreciate the importance of, IP for life science companies, but I quickly realized that I enjoy doing more on the regulatory and
Mm.
healthcare side. And there's also overlap, for life science company between FDA and also patent strategy.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that as
Huh.
well.
So you happy overall? You're happy with your career choice? You're glad? I mean, it was a little bit of a circuitous route, but would you have done it differently if you could go back in time now? Maybe skip the PhD?
I don't think I would skip it. I really do enjoy it. I feel that I try different things, and sometimes in my career path, it's about eliminating or understanding what I don't like. But I felt that all those degrees and education sort of led me to where I am now. So I will
Yeah.
still do the same, but I will certainly try to make my PhD shorter than it was. So
Well, Eva, this has been a fascinating conversation. That's an amazing career and amazing educational credentials. Congratulations on your success, and thanks for taking the time to share the story with me.
thank you very much, Richard. It's great to be here.
This is Richard Hsu and Eva Yin. Thanks.